You know, I have a reputation for starting Pokemon what ifs and not finishing them. These honestly had a lot of potential, and I feel bad for not finishing them. Today, though, is a different day, as I have a brand new adventure with our favorite female protagonist, Serena. Serena showed up in Journeys recently, and it got me thinking, what would it be like in an alternate timeline if Serena was born in Kanto and grew up with Ash and Gary? How would the Pokemon world be if Serena was there since the beginning? Well, at first, this scenario seemed kind of impossible to bring together. But then we have to remember that Serena's mom, Grace, is a professional Rhyhorn rider. In this alternate timeline, Serena's mom decides on moving to Kanto. The inspiration for this comes from participating in the Laramie family annual Pokemon race after hearing about it. She participates in this race, and everyone is so impressed by her skills that the Rhyhorn farmers offer a full position for helping young Rhyhorn racers prepare for the Laramie family race or other races. She decides on keeping the job and does pretty well with this, and ultimately decides to move to Pallet Town due to being quiet. Her clients either come to her, or she goes back to the Rhyhorn farm, and every once in a while, Serena comes with her. Being around Rhyhorn and other Pokemon her entire life, Serena naturally loves Pokemon. The Rhyhorn farm is also near the Safari Zone, so Serena also has experience with a lot of them, knowing a lot more about Pokemon. She also attends Oak Summer Camp because of her fascination. People always expected her to follow in her mother's footsteps, but being born in Pallet Town influences a lot of different factors in Serena's life. Growing up with Gary and Ash motivates her to be a Pokémon Master. She is very competitive due to growing up with these two knuckleheads. They both get along with Serena, but Gary and Ash obviously have a more fierce rivalry with each other. Serena was always the one in the middle to break up their petty arguments. She literally was the balance of the trio, I guess you could say. Serena still has a childhood crush on Ash, but will never admit it. She is also very independent and is a lot more fired up. Serena, like I mentioned earlier, being around a lot of different Pokemon naturally makes her gifted and smart. And with the influences of being best friends with Gary Oak, she is able to learn a lot from being around Professor Oak as well. Plus, her mom was always helping Professor Oak with research projects due to him wanting to know how Pokemon feel when humans ride on them. He felt it was a very understudied area of when it came to human and Pokemon relationships, as it takes a lot of trust to ride on a Pokemon as skillfully as Grace does. And her insight provided Professor Oak with amazing research. Not only this, but Serena and the boys were constantly watching competitive Pokemon battling on television, so that also got her hyped up to be a Pokemon trainer. Having all of this influence growing up makes Serena a prodigy of nearly everything Pokemon related, and thus she wanted to do as much research as she could before she started her Pokemon journey. Serena just loves Pokemon in general, and wants to know everything about them no matter from what perspective. She wants to learn more about them through battling, research, etc. Serena also knows the art of Pokemon riding very well, and more or less knows how to get to a Pokemon's heart. Therefore, Pokemon naturally flock to her like a magnet. Even Professor Oak acknowledges her talent, especially due to him knowing Serena for her entire life. So, with that little bio about Serena growing up with Gary and Ash, we can see all of that makes her a more competitive person, and that she is best friends with both of these boys. Ultimately, she wants to go on this Pokemon journey with both of her best friends, and they do exactly that as we begin our adventure. Serena and Gary both wake up on time and head straight for Professor Oak's lab to obtain their starter Pokemon. Just like in canon, Gary decides to go for Squirtle, and Serena snags Bulbasaur. Serena can't seem to figure out if Bulbasaur is a plant or animal Pokemon, and this intrigues her greatly. Not only that, but Bulbasaur just naturally loves her, and Serena winds up making her decision. Some time passes as Serena and Gary both wait for Ash to show up. They both know their childhood friend overslept, as per the usual. They eventually wait long enough to the point where a third trainer shows up and snags Charmander. Serena tries to defend Ash and say he will be here, but Professor Oak states this trainer was on time, and Ash was not. So therefore, the third trainer of Pallet should get Charmander in all fairness. Finally though, Ash does show up, and in his bright green pajamas. Gary then laughs at Ash, calling him a loser, as he doesn't even know how to get dressed. Ash is about to retort back at Gary, while Serena just sighs and says, "We've been waiting all morning for you," as she laughs, happy just to see her friend here. Ash then says he will take Squirtle, as Gary just laughs hysterically, watching Ash go through all of the Pokeballs. Oak states that all of the Pokemon were given away to trainers who were on time. Ash then asks if he has anything left. Much to Oak's dismay, he does say he has one more with a little bit of hesitation. Ash, not caring, says he will take it. Oak says, "If you insist," as a Pikachu pops out of its Pokeball. Within seconds, the entire gang gets shocked, including Professor Oak. The trio exits the lab to then be greeted by Ash's mother, as she gives him the things he needs to get going. Delia, being a very close mother-like figure to both Serena and Gary as well, extends a hug to the trio as she says to keep each other safe. Serena's mom also comes to hug the three of them, as she also rubs Gary's and Ash's heads, telling them to behave themselves. They both grunt a little, but then eventually smile back at Grace. As the trio goes off into the distance, the two moms smile at each other, and Delia puts her hand on Grace's shoulder, saying she's made hot tea and lunch as they both walk over to the Ketchum residence. Serena and the trio then leave Pallet Town and make their way towards Viridian City. Ash, being the impulsive boy he is, sees a Pidgey out in the distance and decides to throw a Pokeball at it. As the ball closes, Ash gets super excited. That is, until the ball shakes and Pidgey gets out. Serena is setting up a place for the gang to eat lunch, and as she does, she hears Gary laugh at Ash, calling him a doofus, and then states, "Here, Ashy boy, I'll show you how to really capture a Pokemon." Gary spots a Spearow out in the distance and calls out for a Squirtle to emerge from its ball. Immediately, Gary orders Squirtle to perform a tackle attack, knocking Spearow down. Gary throws a Pokeball, capturing Spearow in one swoop. Ash, with a sour face, looks away from him as Gary puts him down. Serena then calls for Gary to stop bullying Ash as lunch is ready. Serena made the gang a splendid meal, along with her specialty Pokepuffs for the Pokemon. Growing up around ride Pokemon her entire life, as well as guidance from her mother, has made Serena a bit of a natural chef. The trio let their Pokemon out as they eat their meal nonchalantly. Pikachu, however, is being stubborn and refuses to climb down from a nearby tree. Ash tries to get it to come down, but it refuses, all while Gary laughs at Ash's misfortune. Serena raises an eyebrow at him, causing him to whistle and turn away. Serena decides to approach the tree and starts to talk to Pikachu in a very calming way. She holds out a Pokepuff as an offering to Pikachu. Pikachu climbs down the tree slowly, grabs the offering, and eats the Pokepuff whole as it jumps onto Serena, nuzzling her in the face. Ash gets a bit jealous of this and says, "That's my partner." Serena laughs and offers Ash a Pokepuff and says, "Here, you try." Ash holds out the Pokepuff to Pikachu, and he eats it with a big smile on its face. Ash begins to pet Pikachu, and it slowly begins to get comfortable around him. Lunch would go on for a bit longer, until a sparrow-like scavenger is heard from up within the trees. It pops out its head, and Serena then offers it to come down to have some Pokepuffs. Being a wild Pokemon and seeing Gary's Spearow enjoying the Pokepuffs though, the wild Spearow gets jealous, and in a fit of rage, screams. This causes an entire flock of Spearow to appear, flying towards the gang. The gang sees this, and immediately, Serena and Gary return their Pokemon back to the safety of their Pokeballs. Ash attempts to call Pikachu back as well, but it refuses. Pikachu then gets attacked by the Spearow as Ash runs after it to pick it up. The trio then hightail as fast as they can, until Serena finds what she deems to be a perfect hiding place under some thicket. As they are hiding, Ash makes a snarky comment to Gary, saying it was all his fault for being a show-off and capturing Spearow. Gary and Ash bicker at each other, and eventually get a little loud. Loud enough to get the attention of the Spearow. Once discovered, the trio is backed into a corner. They can no longer run away nor hide. So Serena, with courage, sends out her Bulbasaur and stands right in front of the Spearow, saying she won't let them hurt her two best friends. Ash and Gary then look at each other with a smile, as they both say sorry to each other. Both inspired by Serena's antics, they both stand up, with Gary calling out a Squirtle. Even though Ash's Pikachu was hurt, he vowed to protect it with his life. As the trio and flock of Spearow look at each other, the flock charges them. Serena and Gary both order the signature attacks from their starters with the Razor Leaf and Water Gun combined, creating a leaf-like water vortex. Pikachu, with the smallest amount of strength it had left, also joins the fray, as it fires off a strong thunder shock into the vortex. This, alongside the rain, causes a huge explosion. The gang eventually wakes up, and when Serena sees Ash and Gary still alive, she runs over to both of them, crying and hugging them, saying she's glad they were still alive. As Serena has teary eyes, Bulbasaur uses her vines to wipe her tears away, nuzzling her trainer. Squirtle and Pikachu both reciprocate this by nuzzling their trainers as well. The gang walks off happily as they head towards the Viridian City Pokémon Center. But in the sky is a Ho-Oh flying over the rainbow. At the Pokémon Center, the trio check in with their partners, and end up waiting the entire night for their Pokémon as they were in pretty bad shape. Eventually, Team Rocket does show up, and the events of the original anime play out, as Team Rocket is extremely interested in Pikachu and the other Twerp's Pokémon. The three of them work together with what they have, and make Team Rocket blast off. The next morning, Serena then spots a letter on top of Gary's bed in the Pokémon Center dorm. Despite them working together for the Spearow raid, Gary decides he wants to go out on his own, because he feels he is able to gain more ground on his own, especially when it comes to capturing multiple Pokemon. He acknowledges that he's missed some on the way to Viridian, and he doesn't want that to happen again, and feels that being as a trio just distracts him. Serena is a little upset by this, but felt it would happen eventually, as even she had a hard time trying to get Ash and Gary to get along. However, since Gary apologized to Ash during the Spearow attack, she isn't as upset as she normally would be, and ultimately just wishes Gary the best of luck. Gary also teases her and says that now her and Ash have alone time. As she turns bright red, Ash looks over her shoulder asking who the letter was from. Serena turns an even brighter shade and says, It's Gary, he wanted to go on his own. Ash then says, what did that jerk say about me? As he tries to take the letter away from her. However, Serena says, you're not reading this letter, Ash Ketchum, as she displays keep away with this letter. Prior to getting to Viridian Forest, Serena wants to find out more about the Pokemon that are around the outskirts of Viridian City over on Route 22. And she goes nuts capturing loads of Pokemon. But there was one in particular that really caught her interest, being a female Nidoran. She orders Bulbasaur to battle it, capturing it with ease from a simple tackle attack. Ash is super impressed by this, and is happy for his friend. He gets pumped up and wants to capture his own Pokemon. He sees a Pokemon that catches his eye, being a Mankey, and Serena then begins coaching Ash on how to battle and capture a Pokemon. Ash already forgot, even after watching Gary. But really, could you blame him for not watching? You would think that Ash would also have a bit more knowledge growing up around Serena. Well, Ash is kind of a dum-dum head, so no, he doesn't. With the help of Serena, Ash is able to capture Mankey, and due to Serena being there, Ash doesn't lead this Mankey into a banana berserk spree. Ash and Serena will spend lots of time in different areas so Serena can find out more about Pokemon. Her entire dex will be pretty filled throughout the adventure, but she will mainly stick with 6 Pokemon, with the exception of switching some Pokemon out from time to time. Finally, Ash and Serena both make their way to the Viridian Forest, and rather than Ash finding a Caterpie like in the original timeline, something more interesting happens, as Serena runs into a female Pikachu. Now, this is where I need your help, guys. I'm leaving it to you. Does Serena engage with this Pikachu, or does she run away? That's right. This is a choose your own path where you guys are in control of the story. I want you to let me know in the comment section below, as well as a community poll, which path you all want Serena to take. Naturally, the most popular choice will be written about. But fret not, I have a special surprise for those who picked the losing path. What is that surprise, you may ask? Well, you'll just have to wait and see next time. Welcome back to the outro, folks, your favorite part of the video. Thank you for enjoying another Mystic Umbreon video. We made it through the end of the 8th generation, and now we begin the long trek into late 2022 where Pokemon Scarlet and Violet await us. It's a whole new world we'll live in, but we still gotta catch them all. However, there's still a ton of videos to do and experiences to have until then. If you're interested in more Mystic content, check out my TikTok and the Mystic Umbreon Shorts YouTube channel. If we get the 10k followers on TikTok, I'll be doing a viewer's choice video. If you like Genshin Impact, check out my Genshin channel Teibachinary. So if you all enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.